Okay, so another issue that comes up with lines in a lot of discussion and debates in different hand reading books is the origin of the lines and where they start and where they end. And again, the problems with this kind of idea come from a lack of really comprehensive understanding, a coherent philosophy about how the lines are formed and what they're about, and getting a significant languaging or symbolism that helps describe those lines. And sometimes actually just simply a lack of coherent observation of the lines themselves. And all sorts of people have come up with different theories about which way the lines flow. You've got Julius Spear, who argues that the earth line goes from this way up to that way. You got William Benham, who says that the life force energy comes through the index finger, because he's been looking at the Sistine Chapel and he sees God illuminating David with giving him that life force, and therefore all the energy of all the lines goes that way. And so whilst the earth line goes that way, in contradiction to Julius Spear, the air line goes that way, and then the water line also goes from the index finger towards the little finger side of the hand, the radial tip on the edge. Now, these are just theories of people superimposing their ideas upon the lines of the hand. So it's actually more useful to actually look at the lines themselves, like where do they always be and where are they most variable. So I'm going to just give you a little illustration that shows you exactly what I mean. So it's a schematic that basically shows you the variations in the endings of the lines. And when you start looking at lines, you can see that it's fairly obvious that the lines always appear in certain places. So the major earth line or the lifeline is always up here in this area of the hand, but it has a significant variation in where it can end. It can end around the ball of the thumb, it can end somewhere in the middle, or it can even end out over there. So there's a kind of variation in the ending of the earth line, which is basically in that area down there. But the earth line always starts somewhere around there. There's very little variations in the origin of that line. So this line is this end of the line is consistent, and this end of the line is variable. All right, so that's what we're looking at. We're looking for, it goes from a consistency point to a variability point. Now, there's not much debate about the earth line or the lifeline. Everybody except Julius Spear says it starts up here and goes down that way. So it's a good illustration of the principle that we need to use to understand which way the lines go. And which way the lines go, the origin is consistent and the ending is variable. And that's basically a basic principle upon which that operates. So if we look at that with the major airline or the headline, the same thing. So the major airline or the headline always starts in this area here. There might be a few little variations or little marks coming in. Sometimes it can start below the earth line slightly, sometimes slightly above the earth line. Whether it's joined or separated is another sort of factor. But it's always in that area. But the ending of the airline can be anywhere, almost in the entire hypothenar area of the hand. Clearly, it can end as a simian line. It can end very high up in the sort of this area of the hand here, whether it's underneath the ring finger, under the air finger, or it can curve down a little bit, or it can curve very deeply down into that area of the hand, like Carl Jung, or it can go really deeply down there, like the Dalai Lama, or you can even go right down here, as I've seen in the hands of people who are like Zen Buddhist monks. So the variations in the ending of the airline it's the most variable of all the possible endings for all the lines, all the main lines in the hand. It can be anywhere in those areas there. So there's a huge amount of variety in the airline. And of course, the massive amount of variety in the airline is fitting because, and it's one of the reasons why that shows you it's the line that's ruled by the air element. Air is the principle of variability. So again, we have consistency at this end of the line and we have variability at this end of the line. So consistency at one end and variability at the other. So again, the same principle that works for the major earth line is it's consistent at one end, and that's the origin point, and it's very variable at the other end, and that's the, if you like, the ending point. So again, we can see that the airline travels from here, going that way, and down towards and into the internal realm or the unconscious that's represented by the hypothenar area of the hand. All right. So that's with the airline. Now with the waterline, it's exactly the same thing. Where is the waterline always present? The waterline is always present underneath the little finger. And what about the other end? Well, it can be straight across in a simian line. It can be quite short and reserved and keeping quite low down in the palm, or it can curve up a little bit higher, or it can go ending up going towards the water finger, or the space between the water finger and the earth finger, or it can end up going across the palm like that, or it can end up curling down towards the earth line like that. So there's quite a bit of variation in the waterline as well, and it's roughly between the minor earth line and the major earth line and the base of the fingers. So there's quite a large variety in the possible endings of the major waterline. And a study done by Felicity Booth and myself in 1996, we did a study of 2,500 handprints and uncovered the fact that there are 18 distinguishable variant endings to the major waterline. But they all end in this area, and this end of the waterline underneath the little finger is the consistent area. So conclusively and without any shadow of a doubt, this is the beginning of the major waterline underneath the little finger, and this is the end of the major waterline underneath the index finger. So the waterline goes from this way to that, from the radial side to the ulnar side. No, from the ulnar side to the radial side, I beg your pardon. So it's really simple to see just from observing the hand. Where it's consistent is the beginning, and where it's variable is the end. And if you think about that in terms of elements, the beginning, the roots are earth, and the leaves or the plants on the end of the trees are the air. So it goes from earth to air, and that's how you know which is the beginning of the line and which is the end of the line. The consistency is the beginning, and the variability is the end, because consistency is ruled by earth and variability is ruled by air. So I hope that clarifies for you which way the lines, the major lines of the hand go. It's kind of, you know, as I said, there's a lot of argumentation and debate in a lot of palmistry books, particularly about the major waterline. The major waterline is understood to go from by many palmists as going from the index finger down towards the little finger, and that's just completely misunderstanding the nature of the line. In fact, it's completely misunderstanding the nature of the lines themselves. And of course, that's going to lead to an erroneous interpretation of their significance. One of the things we can see definitely with the lines in that respect is how they traverse the hand. I'll just get another handprint up. Maybe that'll be the thing to do. Let's go to find an actual handprint, and you can see what I mean by that. So you've got, you know, in whatever hand you've got, basically you've got a transmission that's happening between from the airline, which is going from the outside and taking things in, and you've got things from the waterline, which is on the inside and going out. So understanding that the thumb side of the hand is the external. So what you can see with the lines is the earth line is like taking food in through the mouth and transmuting it into the body, taking information in from the outside and transmuting it into your understanding. So both the airline and the earth line are going from the outside to the inside, physically and mentally, whereas the waterline is going from the inside to the outside. And that's why the waterline is a measure of how we connect with other people, what qualities we have within us that are brought to the outside. And the minor earth line is the line that shows the division between those two. So you've got the inner and the outer half described by the minor earth line itself. And so the major air and the major waterline are two lines that show the input and output into consciousness. And these two lines go into completely different directions. And if you don't have the correct understanding of where the beginning and the end of a line is, that's an important understanding about the significance of the major lines that you're missing. Unfortunately, many palmists don't have an understanding of the lines in that kind of way. So a lot of their ideas are kind of wrong in that respect too. So that's another thing for you to look out for if you're reading palmistry books. You know, if you find that in a palmistry book, then it's a guarantee that basically you've got somebody who hasn't really thought about hand reading, and probably a lot of the stuff that was in their book is just copied from other people. It's pretty clear to my mind that Benham is responsible for that misunderstanding of the nature of the origin of the waterline, and everybody's just blindly copied him since then. So hand reading requires a little bit more thought and care than that, but most of it requires observation. And once you start observing hands, it becomes totally obvious which way the lines go because of the consistency and the variability, as I've shown in this little video. So I hope that clarifies that little misunderstanding up. If you like the video, like and subscribe. Don't forget there's more stuff coming out. And if you're serious about wanting to know about hand reading, then you need to come and study with me at patreon.com/handreading. That's where I'm putting out my serious teaching work. So I look forward to seeing some of you there.